The Witch King. How strong is the Witch King of Angmar? One of the strongest and darkest figures to roam Middle-earth, a force of sorcery and dread. But exactly how powerful is he? Hello, and welcome back to another video from Secrets of the Rings. Being nearly indestructible, extremely cunning, and a strategist, without even discussing the sheer terror he was able to inflict upon his victims, the Witch King, also known as the Black Captain and Chief of the Nine, was a power to reckon with. Through the ages he was kept under Sauron's dominion. The arsenal from which the Wraith could draw upon to terrorize his opponents was extensive, ranging from a long black sword to a black mace, which simply by its mere sight could instill fear and break the spirit, not to mention the bones that would be broken from a hit. Another important artifact in his apparatus was the Morgul Blade, a short sword knife that enabled the Wraith to damage not only the tissue of the opponent, but also the spirit. With its poison, the blade would pierce the flesh, and if not used as a killing blow, would cause a wound that would make the victim fall shortly into fever, only to then succumb and become a Wraith himself after a short period of time. This blade was especially important during the events of the War of the Ring, when the hobbits encounter the Nazgul at Weathertop, and the Witch King himself pierces Frodo's shoulder, giving him a wound that would cause him pain throughout his life in Middle-earth. Apart from the sight of him, which would cause men and elf alike to tremble, the Witch King was also known for his abilities in riding the most terrible of beasts, such as the Black Horses of Mordor, a group of steeds accustomed to evil creatures and surroundings at an early age. These mounts were fortified by armor and corrupted by spells alongside potions to make them swift, tireless, and unafraid of things that would terrify a normal steed. The fell beasts, also known as hellhawks, were another important factor in his skill set, used as mounts. As a winged creature, at times reminding one of a featherless bird with its naked body, and at other times a flying lizard by its stench and movement, it was more than ample reason to duck and take cover when they flew across the battlefield, catching unsuspecting soldiers amidst their fight for survival. Among its few weaknesses were arrows that, depending on the speed and the command of the Nazgul, would make it incredibly difficult to hit, and therefore makes this one of the favorite mounts of the Witch King during the events of the War of the Ring. And speaking of innate abilities, we must mention that as Wraiths, the Nazgul themselves are tireless, not knowing anything but their duty and objective towards finding the ring and serving their Dark Lord Sauron. Their ability to scream and petrify opponents, the so-called Black Breath, was also a vital aspect of the Witch King and the Nazgul overall, that enabled them to pass undisturbed when preferred, or to slay their foes more easily and without as much resistance when desired. In interrogations, it could even be used as a means of torture, to terrorize its victims to the breaking point of despair and dread. Technically invisible, the Wraith could only be seen when wearing garments, such as wearing black robes or armor for important battles. On the other side, though, they were able to see the other world, a dimension that functions as a veil alongside the seeing world, where ghosts, spirits, and the light and darkness, the essence of the beings themselves, can be noticed. This enables them to see things more clearly, as well as assess their opponents, such as was the case when the Witch King of Angmar was confronted by Glorfindel and decided to flee from an elf so powerful that he could slay even Balrogs. Lastly, but no less important, are the several incantations and spells that made part of the Witch King's knowledge base and enabled him to turn entire locations, such as the North, into what was later known as a land of the wicked and undead, his kingdom of Angmar. Another example was Minas Ithil, which was transformed into Minas Morgul. After years of the initial campaign from the evil forces, the land began to transform, turning it into a decayed city with a swamp-like putrid aspect, with poisoned water and gases flowing through the place, resembling the dread that emanated from Mordor on the other side of the mountain range that circles the city. The Witch King of Angmar was a terrible and formidable foe for the forces of men, elves, and dwarves alike. And it was only after the fulfillment of the prophecy made by Glorfindel that the free folk of Middle-earth saw themselves free from his terror and tyrannic reign.